How do you build a high-performing culture? This is Culture Architects. Candid conversations with extraordinary leaders sharing their biggest successes, failures, and lessons learned on their culture journeys. Here's David J. Friedman.
Welcome back to my conversation with Crystal Hanlon, Senior Vice President and Culture Officer at the Home Depot. Last time, we covered a lot of ground, from Crystal's amazing beginnings at Home Depot to the challenges of teaching and reinforcing company culture across a company of their size, to returns right to the bottom line. Today, we're going to hear more about the systems with which the orange-blooded culture is taught. And now that she's coming up on 40 years with the company, we're going to learn what Crystal considers to be some of the milestones and learning experiences of her amazing career. So talk about the inverted pyramid a little bit for our audience. So tell me, what is I know it's about leaders serving the associates, but talk more about the inverted pyramid and how does that show up in life?
Oh, yeah. Bernie and Arthur started this years ago when they started the company. And the reason they did it is they wanted to have the customer at the top of the pyramid, to say we all work for the customer because we can't stay in business if we aren't paying our bills, right? So the customer's first, the associate second, because the associate takes care of the customer, and we can't have either one without each other, not in today's environment. So the inverted pyramid is the CEO at the bottom of the pyramid works for everybody that's out there to make a difference, customers and associates. And then every level of leadership is serving the associates and the customer. But the customer is the top, because the customer is the most important, obviously, because they're paying our bills and they're shopping our stores, right? So those are the most important to us. And that viewpoint was the foundation for the creation of Home Depot, to say, you know what, we're here for two reasons. We're here to make a difference in the lives of our people and our customers, to make our customers' dreams come true. And if you listen to Bernie and Arthur talk about it, I have listened to them so many times in my career. And they talk about the fact that you've got to listen and you've got to hear what your associates are saying. And what does the customer need that we don't have? And, you know, how can we fix the customer's problem or the associate's problem? And what can we do to make a difference? And they lived it every day, and we still live it to this day. I always tell everybody, I get up every morning to make a difference for our associates and our customers, because that's what it's all about. And it really gives you a sense of purpose, because you're working for people.
So you've been at this for a long time now. And my experience is that anybody who's been doing something for a long time has inevitably made some mistakes along the way. We all do. And if we're reflective and thoughtful, we look back and say, boy, I should have seen that, or I learned something there. So what are some of the mistakes you've made along the way in your stepping stones throughout your growth? And what did you learn from them?
David, I've made a lot of mistakes. I think we all go through mistakes in life, right?
As long as we're learning from them.
Oh, yeah. I always have learned from them.
So what are a couple of big ones?
One of my biggest mistakes as I came through the ranks was I wanted to be the best, obviously, and I wanted to do it my way. Like, I wanted it to be done my way, because I felt like, I knew what I was doing and I wanted to make sure it was my way. But the fact is, I learned that other people can get to the same goal in a different way, and they can do it much better than I ever did it. Right. And you have to let people run, and you have to let people be who they are, and bring those differences in and value those differences to where you can achieve the goal, but you're not trying to do everything, right? Because that just causes a lot of extra hours that are unnecessary. Because in many cases, once I learned that, I learned to let go and lead. Let go and let people get to the objective in their way, many cases better than the way I would have gotten there, and not hold on too tight. That was one of my biggest lessons. And the other was to make sure I had balance. I've spent a lot of years working in retail, and, trying to be the best, it means you're going to work pretty hard. And I learned balance and my why. Why am I doing everything? What's important? And important is also your family, your friends, the lives that you touch, and learning how to let go and find that balance was a huge lesson for me that
Mm-hmm.
has added a tremendous amount of value because I learned my why many years ago. And I try to focus on that every day so that I understand why am I
Mm-hmm.
doing all this? And, it's no good if I get to the end of my life and nobody's there with me. I've got to do
Mm-hmm.
it for the right reasons. And so that was a huge lesson, the balance piece for me.
Mm-hmm. So I want to take us just in a different direction a little bit. And I'm curious about one of the things that we teach in CultureWise and in my company is the importance of creating rituals to embed the practices that are important to us. And I learned this years ago from Ritz-Carlton originally. So you may or may not know, you probably know of Horst Schulze. He was so famous for what he created at Ritz-Carlton. And I had him on our podcast, and we've talked a lot about one of the rituals is the word I use for it, is that they do at Ritz-Carlton's. They have 20 basics that they teach, which are their kind of standards of service performance. And they take one each day and they focus on it. And they focus on it through a ritual known as the daily lineup. So in every store, every Ritz-Carlton property around the world, team members get together at the beginning of every shift and they spend a couple minutes talking about today's basic. So today's basic number one, and every Ritz-Carlton property in the world is focused on basic number one today, and they're talking about it in the daily lineup. Tomorrow, every Ritz-Carlton employee in every property around the world is talking about number two, and the next day, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And every 20 days, they go back to the beginning. So they have this ritual of the daily lineup, which is how they have a structure to connect people every single day to the things that are important to them. I'm curious, are there rituals like that, whether they be daily lineups, stand-up meetings, other things? Like, is there any structure to how do you teach with enough repetition, whether it's your 8 core values or it's the inverted pyramid? Is there anything like that you do at Home Depot?
Yes, we have morning meetings every morning.
Okay.
And throughout the shifts. And what we talk about is customer service stories and how we bring those to life. It may be based around a value on the values wheel, or it may be based on GET, which is greet, engage, and thank our customers. And we bring that to life with our people by telling, what was your store? Where did you give great service? Little things like that. Short meetings, but it gets like a pep rally for our people to get them motivated and excited about the day. And then we do training with our leadership training all the time on GET and customer service and basics on our values. We're, David, one of the things for us is we constantly try to bring our values to life. And we try to teach on our values with our associates through our coach associate program and talk about the different values on the values wheel. So we have rituals like that to where we stay focused. And then we also do orange highlights, and the orange highlights goes across to all stores, and it's stories of culture, stories of service, and how we drive that in our stores and with our communities. And so we have platforms to be able to do that to where we can touch all stores. On Mondays specifically, we have something called Same Page, and Same Page is a short broadcast that goes to all store leaders. And many times on those store leadership conversations, we're talking about what is the priorities for the week, what does service look like. We tell a story about somebody that's done something amazing, an associate, because we have so many amazing people that do things when no one's looking, and we kind of highlight some of those stories so everybody kind of knows this is the goal.
So Same Page is how that gets out on Mondays.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it connects all of us from Monday on.
And Ritz-Carlton, again, in a similar way, when they do their daily basic, there is a story that comes from headquarters of some amazing story that somebody did, typically related to that basic, but that story is being told in every property around the world on that particular day. And so they cycle through them on a daily basis. So you've got your Monday, same day. What are some of the other things like the same day that you do I use the word ritual in a ritualistic way. It happens. It's just part of our routine. Every Monday we do this. Every Tuesday we do that. What are some of the other routines like that are sort of part of the foundation of how Home Depot operates that drives this stuff?
Well, it's all about connection, right? So we have Viva Engage, which we have platforms for every region, every store where they can connect, communicate on Viva Engage and tell their stories. We have community captains, which basically drive our culture stories in the stores, because we try to work through our leadership teams to say, okay, how can I get as many connection points out there as possible? And our community captains, our Team Depot captains, our cultural captains can tell those stories and get it on a broader basis. So district wide, you got those stories being collected. And then we highlight those on our Orange Spotlight, My Apron. We tell those stories. And we've got an HGTV studio that we use to get it, we'll video these things going on. Or we might go to a store opening and see all the excitement that's happening and share it with the entire company. And, when you think about ritual on a day-to-day basis, it's connection with that store leader and the team that's working in the store that day throughout the shifts. So we have to do that not only on the opening shift, but you're also going to have to connect through your leadership team on the 1 to 10 shift, and to make sure that we're also with the night teams and making sure that we're touching each one of those platforms. So all those connection points are critically important. And we try to set that up through our same page on Monday and then our pep rallies that we have, which are very short because obviously you're trying to bring everybody in. You got customers coming in. So we have short snippets, but they're moments that matter. And the other piece, the connection piece that people tend to forget and tend to lose is what I told you on the volunteer work base on Team Depot and community engagement. Because those moments when everybody comes together, regardless of title, it doesn't matter what title you are. You can be a cashier or division president. When you're on that site, you're just like everybody else out there to make a difference for somebody next to you. And that unites our people. If they go into a Team Depot, that's a ritual we do on a consistent basis. And when they're out there, that connection that we feel, it translates into the store, because then you have those points of connection. So we've got all kinds of things that we do to try to connect, because I really think in this role, one of the things I'm trying to do is say, okay, how can we connect 475,000 associates? What can we do to make a difference to where they have that light bulb that goes off that says, oh my God, this is the orange-blooded culture, and this is what we can do. You can have great success in your life. And to tell those stories really resonates. So we do quite a bit of that in the stores.
So let's talk a little bit more about the Team Depot. Is that something that is, well, two questions. First, who at a store level or at a region level, is there somebody who owns that initiative and says, okay, here's the project we're going to do? Who's got responsibility for Team Depot in a store?
So every store has a Team Depot captain.
Okay.
And what they do is work with the nonprofit provider in their communities. And sometimes we'll do it as a district, and sometimes we'll do it as a store. Sometimes we have foundation events that are huge, where our vendors come in together with us and help. And they're responsible for finding the right project. And it could be an hourly associate. This is what's so amazing, David. This is why I love our people so much. Because on a Team Depot project, it's voluntary to go out there. They volunteer, and many of our associates will volunteer after their shift or before their shift and go out and give hours of work. And they love to do it. It's not like anybody says, oh, I don't want to go to Team Depot. People fight to sign up for Team Depot. And that's how come I know our people are so amazingly special, because our people want to help others and want to make a difference. And that's what's so amazing about our people. I mean, that's why I work so hard, is because I love the fact that they'll go out there and you'll see a sea of orange, David. You got to go on a project with me. Come to one of my foundation projects. I mean, when you see what we do, we're touching lives all over everywhere, the country. And it's for the purpose of giving back. And that unites us. I mean, it's a huge thing. And the community captains do a great job running the program. I have community captains that I talk to on a consistent basis because I want to get the feedback, and I have them also working on helping me drive the culture message, on connecting the people. So I have them working on that too, because it's another angle for me to touch somebody. So I'm working through them, and they love it. I mean, they love being on my culture committee.
That's great. And so what, I mean, if you were to guess, not holding you to this, but what percentage of associates in a given year will have worked on a Team Depot? Is it 10%? Is it 70%?
I would say it would be closer to 35 to 40%.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're trying to do is, since it does connect the heartstrings, is some of our newer associates to come out to the sites, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because then they same thing can happen to them that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing we're trying to do, and we haven't got it done yet, I'm working on it,
Mm-hmm.
is remote associates. The remote associates that are across the country
Mm-hmm.
to have an opportunity to come out to their local community and connect, because remote associates don't feel that connection. So we're trying to build that to bring them in the fold.
So I have a guess about this, but I'm curious. So over your whole career of culture building at Home Depot, if there was one project or initiative that you're most proud of, is it Team Depot? Is it what would be the project or initiative that you're most proud of your career at Home Depot?
Oh, that's a tough one because I'm proud of so much. So, when I think about, if you ask me, when is my proudest times and moments, it's when I get to see an associate that buys their first car or buys their first home or gets promoted to a department head or gets promoted to an assistant manager, store manager. To me, those are very proud moments because I get to see them start creating their dreams, right? And it's just bringing it to life. So for me, that's one of my most proud moments. Those moments in time are just so special. And the other is Team Depot projects. I mean, when you go out and you see what we do with the veterans and the communities, when you get to be a part of that and see the sea of orange and see the finished project, you'll see the beginning and it's like, holy moly, we got a long day. And then you see it all come together there can be, in some cases, 100 people out there in orange shirts, all working together. And I get to see the difference it makes. And to me, those are very proud moments too, because we work for such an amazing company that gives back and lets us do that.
I remember that there was a project I had worked on as a volunteer many years ago in my own hometown. There's a company, it's an interesting company, maybe you've seen them, called Robert Leathers, and they build community playgrounds. And they have this methodology where they involve an entire community in building this playground, and everything from sourcing the material to building it to feeding people. And it's a 3-day, almost like a barn raising, where for 3 days, the entire community gets together and builds this amazing playground. And I had played a leadership role in one of those 20 some years ago in my community. But I remember the feelings that you're describing of looking around and seeing, a couple of 100 people from all walks of life coming together, eating meals together, building, working, collaborating. It was certainly for me the most inspiring community service project I've ever been a part of.
I try to tell people that. You should be proud of that, because this is the thing. Life is all about what difference you make, right? And for us, I'm glad you experienced it. I want you to come to one of ours.
Yeah.
Come out to one of ours with me, because it does. It's so much fun. And the best part about it, we have vendors that will be participants. We have people from all levels. And like I said, you leave the title where you came from, because title doesn't matter out there. I can carry mulch just like anybody else, right? And the titles aren't what makes it special. What makes it special is it's all a bunch of people, human beings just trying to make a difference together. And I got to tell you, there's nothing more rewarding than that difference to me, and it gives you purpose. So that's such a huge thing here that we absolutely love.
That's great. So as you think about the future of Home Depot, and what do you think is the biggest threat to the company's culture?
Honestly, I think the biggest threat would be losing the connection of our associates, or the majority of our associates. And to me, that threatens our culture, because we've got to make sure we hit all generations to where we give them hope and the why they need to stay with us. And it's really important that all leaders lean into that, so we don't lose that special ingredient that has made us so unbelievably special as a company and a family. And the threat of of the different generations and not changing styles and connecting with each generation and getting the hook for each group, each person to make them feel that culture. That scares me today. I mean, it scares me every day I get up because I want to make sure somebody has the opportunity in the future that I've had, because you can't make this stuff up. I mean, I've been blessed beyond measure with my career and being a part of something so special, bigger than I thought I could ever been a part of. And I want to make that pave that for the future. And if we don't find all connection points to do that and live it every day, that scares me. That's a threat. I got to figure out, how can I be out there more? How can us as an organization of leaders fuse those different generation gaps and connect them, their hearts somehow, so they see the opportunity?
Is there any of those generations that you found so far is more challenging to see that opportunity than others?
I would say, when you look at the younger generation, obviously, very different environment that they're growing up in than we did, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's on their phone. Everybody's connecting through, in 5 seconds, they can be communicated to on Salesforce. And, you really got to connect with their why. What is their why? What do they want to be there for? And if you find some of the different generations, you can get a hook by saying, maybe it's the environment that they care about, or they care about making a difference. There's different taglines for each one. And I would say connecting with the younger generation to make sure that they understand the opportunity that exists, and make them stay with us and not job change. Because a lot of people in today's world wants to jump to the next job. And if they stay with us, they can have, like me, 50 jobs in one career. I mean, I've changed titles so many times in my career and learned something new constantly. And I think that needs to be communicated and gotten to the younger generation.
Well, and it's an interesting challenge you're raising, because certainly anecdotally, my experience is that the younger generation, whichever we want to describe that as, tends to value permanence less so than previous generations. So
Yes.
they are more transient in nature. You see young people who work somewhere for a couple of years and might even just take 6 months off and go travel for 6 months and then go do something else and then go try and move to another country for a little while and so the value of owning your own home and owning your car and having a career path, many of them don't value that in the same way that other generations did. Neither, that's not good or bad. It's just different.
It's very different. I mean, when you look at what goes on today versus the past, I mean, it is so different, because a lot of the younger generation doesn't want to stay a long time at a company because they feel they can go somewhere quickly. To your point, go on a cruise or go on a trip, But one thing that is really special inside of our depot is we can connect with those younger associates and get them to believe. We just have to take the extra time to do that and to hear why are they there and how can we help them, because it's a very different world than it was 39 years ago. But I still have hope that we can make a difference and get them to understand, because if they stay, I mean, I've had a lot of people come up and say, yeah, I've moved from this job to this job. And when I tell them 39 years, some of them look at me like, oh my God, you've been here 39 years. I'm like, hold up. I changed jobs several different times. I've learned different avenues of business, because sometimes there's like, oh my God, but we got to connect with them, because that is our future.
Yeah. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation, Crystal. I admire your obvious passion and commitment to not only Home Depot, but the culture, the whole connecting people and having a purpose more than anything. Obviously, you bleed orange, as you say, and it's impressive that what you've been able to accomplish. If people wanted to learn more about you or about Home Depot's culture, where would they find out more?
Now that's a question right there. As far as the culture, you can always reach out to your local store from a cultural perspective and talk about the values in the inverted pyramid with our leadership teams. I'm obviously always available to talk about culture because I talk about it all the time. And you can pull up the Built from Scratch that talks about, that's in our external site to be able to see what Home Depot's doing from a cultural perspective and giving back perspective. So
built
that's a
from
good way to do it. Yeah.
Great. Well, that's great. I appreciate that. And so again, thank you so much for joining us on Culture Architects. Fascinating story and a great example for our audience of how culture can be done in a massive company. Because again, as I said earlier, most of my experience and the experience of many of our listeners is working in smaller companies where culture is equally important, but I would say relatively easier if you've got 100 people than if you've got 475,000 people. So the proof that you represent and that Home Depot represents that it can be done at scale, that culture isn't something that's only available in smaller companies, but it can be done at scale and done very effectively, is a really an impressive proof case of what's possible and ultimately the impact of it. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, David. I've enjoyed talking to you, and you come to one of my projects.
I'd like to do it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And that's all for this episode of Culture Architects with Crystal Hanlon, Senior Vice President and Culture Officer at the Home Depot. Folks, if you've been enjoying what we do on this show, make sure to subscribe, and that way you'll automatically get updates whenever new episodes are released. If you have a minute, I'd also love it if you left us a review, and that way more culture fans like you can discover the show. And if you want to learn more about building a high-performing culture in your organization, check us out at CultureWise.com. See you next time on Culture Architects.
This has been Culture Architects with David J. Friedman. Join us next time for more insights and wisdom from great leaders in all walks of life. To book David for your next event or to learn more about his writing, speaking, or consulting, go to davidjfriedman.com. Culture Architects with David J. Friedman is a production of CultureWise.